"You're not going with us. This trip is for a real family." The words landed softly, almost politely, and then everything went quiet. Not awkward silence, worse. The kind where it feels like someone reached over and flipped a switch inside your head. The fridge was still humming. The clock was still ticking. But my ears rang, like sound itself had stepped back to watch what would happen next. I remember staring at my phone, still open to the group chat. My name was there, just not included anymore. What they didn't say hurt more than what they did. They were still going to the lake house. My lake house. They talked about dates, groceries, who was bringing the paddle boards. As if I hadn't just been quietly removed from the picture. I didn't argue, I didn't ask why. I didn't remind them whose name was on the deed. I made one calm decision that changed everything. Because that day, I learned something important. Silence could cut deeper than any argument. If you're listening to this while driving, cleaning, or lying awake at night, go ahead and like the video. Comment where you're listening from. Because I promise, if you've ever felt replaced in your own family, this story will feel uncomfortably familiar. My name is Hannah. I was in my late 20s when all of this happened. I worked a regular city office job. Nothing glamorous. Emails, spreadsheets, long commutes. I've always been the patient one. The quiet problem solver. The person who smooths things over instead of lighting fires. I wasn't raised wealthy. We were stable, warm. The kind of family where birthdays were simple and hugs lasted a second longer than necessary. I don't exaggerate. I don't dramatize. That's why for a long time I kept convincing myself nothing was wrong. But there was one place that mattered more than all the rest. The lake house. When my mom was alive, summers felt endless. I remember waking up early, padding across cold wooden floors with bare feet, the boards creaking softly like the house was stretching awake with me. The air always smelled like pine and water. Damp, clean, alive. My mom used to hum while making coffee, completely off-key, not caring who heard. My dad would be outside checking the water level, squinting at the lake like it was a living thing he needed to understand. That house felt like the one place where nothing bad could reach us. No phones ringing. No deadlines. No raised voices. Just card games at night, sunburned shoulders, and the quiet comfort of knowing everyone belonged. Then my mom got sick, fast. Brutally fast. One season she was laughing on the dock. The next she was too tired to stand. Grief didn't arrive all at once. It crept in, rearranging us before we realized what was happening. After she died, my dad changed. Not in a dramatic way. He just folded inward. The lake house stopped being a destination and became a memory we were afraid to touch. Like going back might somehow make the loss permanent. Then the stepmom entered the picture, along with her 2 daughters. There was no shouting, no obvious cruelty. That's what made it harder to explain. Furniture was rearranged. Family photos quietly replaced. New traditions formed that I wasn't invited into. Inside jokes I didn't understand. Conversations that paused when I entered the room. I was never yelled at. I was simply edited out, so I learned distance. College helped. Then work. Being busy became my shield. I told myself this was just how families evolved. Until the lake house came back into the story. My aunt passed away unexpectedly and left the lake house to me. No confusion. No shared ownership. Just mine. Legal, clear, final. I thought about selling it. I really did. But every time I tried, I could hear my mom humming in the kitchen, so instead I opened the door again. I let them visit. I let them use it. I told myself generosity could fix what distance hadn't. I wanted to believe love would grow back if I made space for it. I had no idea I was preparing my own replacement. The idea came up the way life-changing things sometimes do. Casual, almost careless. We were in my dad's living room. The TV was on low. Some forgettable rerun playing in the background. No one was really watching it. My stepmom was scrolling on her phone when she said, "Maybe we should all take a family vacation. You know, like old times." She didn't look up when she said it. That's what made it feel safe. Damn, why Dad smiled immediately. That familiar, conflict-avoiding smile. He nodded once, like he was agreeing to the weather. "Yeah," he said. "That could be nice." Something loosened in my chest. I didn't realize how badly I'd been waiting to hear that. I tried to keep my voice neutral when I asked questions. Claiming. Who was going? No one answered directly, but no one excluded me either. And somehow that was enough. For the first time in years, I let myself believe I was being invited back in. After that, I threw myself into preparation like it meant something. I went up to the lake house on my days off. Not once. Multiple times. I aired out rooms that hadn't been slept in for months. Washed sheets. Replaced light bulbs. I made lists in my phone. Groceries, paper towels, sunscreen, batteries. I stocked the fridge with everyone's favorites. The stepsister's creamer. My dad's preferred cereal. Things no one had asked for, but I remembered anyway. On my last trip before the vacation, I stood on the dock alone, watching the water ripple in that slow, hypnotic way it always had. The sun was setting, turning everything gold. For a moment, I felt like I was 16 again. Like this place could still make us whole. I told myself this was worth it. Families didn't heal overnight. They healed by showing up. But the red flags started appearing in small, easy-to-dismiss ways, and why stepmom started talking about sleeping arrangements without asking me. She mentioned inviting her daughter's partners. Casually, like it had always been the plan. When I tried to chime in, she waved a hand and said, "We'll figure it out," then immediately changed the subject. I ignored the tight feeling in my stomach. I told myself I was being sensitive, that this was normal, that if I wanted peace, I had to stop reading into things. A lot of people listening right now know that feeling. The moment where your instincts whisper, and you talk yourself out of listening. Then my dad called. He asked if I could stop by to go over details. I grabbed a notebook, thinking logistics, grocery list, timing, maybe boat schedules. I didn't know we weren't going to make it that far, because when I walked in, my stepmom didn't sit down. She stayed standing, arms crossed, loose, practiced, like she was preparing to deliver bad news. My stepmom took her time before speaking. She adjusted her stance, crossed her arms again, then uncrossed them, like she was rehearsing calm. "We've been talking," she said slowly, "and we think it would be better if you didn't come on the trip." For a second I laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain couldn't process the sentence fast enough. It sounded unfinished. Like the rest of it was coming. She didn't smile. "This is really about family bonding," she continued. "A real family vacation." The words landed heavy. Final that I felt heat rush to my face, then drain just as quickly. My mouth opened, closed. I looked from her to my dad, waiting for him to interrupt, to correct it, to say that's not what we agreed on. He didn't. I tried to make sense of it out loud. "You mean this time? Or?" I gestured vaguely, still half laughing. "I've already been getting the house ready." She nodded once, sympathetically. "And we appreciate that. Really. But this just makes more sense." That's when I turned fully toward my dad. He was sitting on the couch, hands clasped, staring at his fingers like they were suddenly fascinating. "Dad," said. My voice sounded far away to me. "Is that how you feel?" He didn't look up. I waited. 5 seconds. 10 to nothing. That silence did more damage than any argument could have. I was standing there holding a notebook filled with meal plans, grocery lists, schedules I'd made for them. And my own father couldn't even tell me I was wronged. My stepmom cleared her throat. "You can always use the house later," she added, like she was offering me something generous. "We're not saying you can't go at all. Just, not this trip." I nodded once. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why. Because suddenly I understood. I said, "Okay," quietly. And that was it. That I walked out before anyone could change their mind. Or worse, explain themselves. When I got to my car, my hands were shaking so badly I had to sit there with the door open, breathing until the world stopped tilting. The realization settled slowly, painfully clear. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a decision. And my dad had made his choice through inaction. The drive home was a blur of red lights and muscle memory. By the time I pulled into my apartment parking lot, the hurt had burned itself into something colder, quieter, more focused. I wasn't going to beg to be included ever again. That night, my apartment felt smaller than it ever had. I paced my apartment until my legs ached. Not frantic pacing, controlled. back and forth like if I stayed moving, the shock wouldn't catch up to me. The conversation replayed on a loop. My stepmom's voice never wavered. Certain. Like she'd been practicing. My dad never met my eyes. Not once. Real family. The words kept surfacing, sharp and unwelcome. I pressed my palms into the kitchen counter, breathing through my nose, trying to slow the spiral. At first, the anger felt raw, directionless. But then it began to change. If I wasn't real family, then why had I been good enough to clean the house, to stock the fridge, to hand over the keys? That question didn't hurt. It clarified. The anger settled into something quieter. Not loud, not explosive. The kind that doesn't rush, it waits. The kind that suddenly makes everything very clear. I picked up my phone, thumb hovering over my dad's name. I already knew how the conversation would go. Apologies wrapped in excuses. She didn't mean it like that. You know how she is. Promises that changed nothing. I put the phone down. I wasn't going to beg him to choose me again. Instead, I opened my laptop. I pulled up every document I had related to the lake house. The deed. The transfer paperwork. I read slowly, carefully. Then again. Everything was in my name. Clear. Simple. No loopholes. No shared control. No room for interpretation. For the first time since the conversation, my breathing evened out. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. No venting texts. No social media posts. No cryptic quotes. This wasn't about making a point. It was about taking control. I requested time off work. Took it calmly. Professionally. Like it was any other task. 2 days later, I got in my car and drove to the lake house early. The road felt different this time. Not nostalgic. Focused. I arrived at the lake house early the day before they were due to show up. The feeling was different this time. Not nostalgic. Not heavy. Focused. That I walked through every room slowly, checking windows, doors, the dock, everything. I sat at the kitchen table afterward, hands wrapped around nothing, just letting the space settle. Then I made one phone call. The locksmith didn't ask questions. He didn't need an explanation. When the metal clicked into place, the sound felt heavier than it should have. Final. The new keys rested cold in my palm. That I didn't feel victorious. I felt calm. That night, I ate dinner alone on the deck. The lake was quiet. No music, no chatter, just water and wind. For the first time, the house felt like mine again. If they had decided I wasn't family, then I didn't owe them access. I slept deeply. The kind of sleep that only comes when your mind isn't arguing with itself anymore. I woke up early without an alarm. Coffee in hand. I stood by the window watching the lake wake up. Checked the time. They were about an hour away. I was surprised by how steady I felt. No racing thoughts. No speeches rehearsed. I knew exactly what I was going to say. And more importantly, what I wasn't. That I wasn't going to explain myself. I heard the tires on gravel before I saw them. I stayed where I was, watching through the window. One car. Then another. Doors opened. Laughter carried faintly through the trees. Rebecca, my stepmom, was already gesturing, assigning rooms the same way she always did. My dad unloaded bags on autopilot. They looked relaxed, comfortable, like this place already belonged to them. That almost made me smile. Rebecca reached into her bag and pulled out the key with complete confidence. She slid it into the lock. Nothing happened. She tried again. Harder. Her shoulders stiffened. My dad took the key from her, jiggled the handle, frowned. One of the daughters rolled her eyes, laughing like it was a minor inconvenience. They tried the back door. Same result. That's when the energy shifted. Rebecca's voice sharpened. She knocked harder this time, irritation leaking through control. "Hannah," she called. "What is this?" I waited a beat longer than necessary. Then I opened the door, just a few inches, the chain still on. I looked out calmly, like I'd been interrupted in the middle of a normal day. "Yes," said. "Can I help you?" Rebecca stared at the door, then at me. "What did you do to the locks?" "I had them changed." "Usual." Factual. Her mouth tightened. "Why would you do that?" Because this is my house. One of the daughters scoffed. We're supposed to be staying here. I know, I said. You told me. My dad stepped forward, panic breaking through his composure. Hannah, this isn't funny. We drove all this way. I'm not joking, I replied. I just made a decision. Rebecca crossed her arms again. You can't just lock us out. We already planned everything. That's interesting, I said evenly. Because last week, you told me this trip was for family only. Don't twist my words, she snapped. I'm not, I said. I listened very carefully. My dad tried to step in. Hannah, that's not. I looked directly at him. Then what did she mean? He opened his mouth, closed it. Rebecca answered for him. We meant this was time for us. For our family. Right, I said. And you were very clear that I'm not part of that. You're being dramatic, she shot back. No, I said. I'm being consistent. One of the daughters laughed sharply. So you're seriously doing this? Yes. This is childish, Rebecca said. You're punishing everyone because your feelings got hurt. I didn't punish anyone, I replied. I just decided not to lend my home to people who don't consider me family. She froze. We have a right to be here. I shook my head. You don't. You just have a habit of assuming you do. My dad stepped closer, voice desperate now. Let's talk about this inside. There is no inside for you today, I said. That Rebecca's face flushed. You're being selfish. I smiled faintly. Maybe. I learned that word from watching you. Open the door, she demanded. I didn't move. I won't let strangers in my house. The words hung there, heavy, unmistakable. For a moment no one spoke. Then everything exploded at once. Accusations, guilt, raised voices. My dad kept saying my name like it might change my mind. I felt nothing, no urge to defend myself. No need to explain. I stepped back and reached for the door. Rebecca lunged forward. You can't do this. I already did. Closed the door. And locked it. They stayed out there for a while. For a few minutes after I locked the door, the shouting continued. Muffled now, dulled by wood and distance. I heard bags hit the gravel, sharp and angry. My dad knocked once. Careful. Like he was hoping I'd changed my mind in the last 30 seconds. I didn't answer. Engines started one by one. Car doors slammed. I stood by the window and watched them pull out of the driveway. The cars shrinking between the trees until there was nothing left but tire marks and silence. The lake didn't react. It stayed perfectly still. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady. That evening, friends arrived. Their cars filled the space my family had just vacated, and the shift was immediate. Laughter returned, but it was different this time. Easy. Earned. No tension hanging in the air. We grilled on the deck. Swam until the sun disappeared. Stayed up too late telling stories that didn't require careful editing. No one walked on eggshells. No one questioned whether they belonged. That night, lying in bed, I realized something important. Power doesn't always come from confrontation. Sometimes it comes from deciding who gets access to you. And for the first time in a long time, that decision was mine. The days after felt lighter. Not quieter, lighter. Friends stayed longer than planned. The lake house stopped feeling like a shrine to the past and started feeling like a place that existed in the present. When they finally left, I stayed. I blocked my stepmom and her daughters without hesitation. No speeches. No explanations. I was done being misunderstood by people who benefited from it. A week later, my dad asked to meet. We chose a small cafe, neutral ground. He looked older somehow. Smaller. He apologized. Not perfectly. Not dramatically. But honestly, that I didn't forgive him right away. Trust doesn't come back just because someone finally says the right words. I told him that I set terms. Low. Careful. On my terms. That he agreed. For the first time I believed him. A month later I contacted a real estate agent. Not to sell, but to rent the lake house seasonally. Something practical. Something that worked for me. That I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. Family isn't defined by blood or labels. It's defined by respect. And the moment someone decides you don't belong, they lose the right to your time, your space, and your generosity. Choosing yourself isn't cruel, it's necessary. If this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear from you. Share where you're listening from. Have you ever had to draw a hard line with someone you loved? Subscribe for more stories about boundaries, growth, and finding your strength.